Hey Pokemon Masters, Birdkeepertoby here, and it's time to Yes, today is the day we are pitting together the two greatest series ever of all time. Well, maybe not the greatest ever of all time, but one of the biggest debates since the 90s. Who is better, the king of card games or the Pokemon Master? And I mean, there were plenty of other franchises that were compared to Pokemon in the 90s. You had Digimon, Dragon Ball, Beyblade even. And hey, maybe that's even a good idea for a series, but today we're covering the ultimate battle. Who is cooler than who? Who copied who will win in a fight, and who's more badass, Light the Sky Dragon or Charizard? Speaking of which, did anyone think that perfect Zygarde form looked a lot like Obelisk the Tormentor? But this ultimate battle cannot be done alone. Today's video has been sponsored by Crunchyroll. More about that later, but for now, let's get down to it. So you might be thinking, Birdkeepertoby, your channel is all about Pokemon, which by the way, if you're new here, you should subscribe. Your channel is all about Pokemon. How could you possibly make this a fair fight? And well, truth be told, Yu-Gi-Oh has been one of my favorite series going back since like forever. I played competitively for a while, more so than I ever have done Pokemon. And as I say, I was one of those kids in the 90s, Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, which is better? I love them both. And in the name of keeping this a fair fight, I'm going to break this video down into 4 segments. See, how could you possibly compare two vastly different series? Well, they each have a manga, they each have a TV show, a card game appearances, and of course, video games. So I'm going to pit these 4 elements against each other, and that is how I'm going to determine who is better. Also, the magic word of today is opinion. Do you know what? I don't know why I bother. I'm sure you'll let me know yours in the comments. Please do. So, let's get down to it with the bit of media that you're probably the least familiar with, which is the manga. The Pokemon manga began in 1996, and the story follows a roster of different Pokemon characters closely following the plotline of the games. The new characters and the new Pokemon swap out every series, allowing a viewer to come in at any point and just pick up and start reading. That is of course only for the main Pokemon mangas, the Pocket Monsters Adventure manga. They did have some very experimental spin-offs, but thank goodness those were cancelled. The Yu-Gi-Oh manga, on the other hand, is very different to the Pokemon manga because it's the first bit of Yu-Gi-Oh that ever entered the world. Yu-Gi-Oh started as this manga also in 1996. Yu-Gi-Oh follows multiple protagonists in line with the TV show who swap out every few series, and the plot is essentially the same as the show. So let's compare the two. The main thing I want to talk about is Pokemon is the clear and unique style of storytelling. See, the show tells the story of Ash. It's a completely different show. We'll talk about that in a bit. And the games follow the story of, well, you, the trainer. It's an RPG. So how can you make a manga based off of the role-playing game? Well, of course, it's just the artists' and writers' interpretation of really how they would play the game. So when you're playing the game, you can have the same adventure as the characters in the manga, or you can do your own thing, and most likely you will. Which makes the Pokemon Adventures manga a very unique telling of essentially the same story. And even though it's the same story that you see in the show and the games and even the Pokemon Origins anime, it's still told in its own unique way. Not only that, the storytelling is cute, it's concise, it's funny, it's a little bit darker than the show, but generally speaking, enjoyable by all age groups. Now let's take a look at the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, which much like its Pokemon counterpart is darker, but there is an issue that I found while reading it. Following the rules of a fictional card game over multiple panels, while not as difficult as it could be if it was in novel form, is still pretty tough to follow. And I know you would say, well, it's first. Really, the Yu-Gi-Oh show copied it, but that's essentially my point. The Yu-Gi-Oh show is just a more refined version of the manga. It tells the story, the same story, but better. Whereas even though it's all the same story for the various Pokemon mediums, it's still told in a new and interesting way. I don't feel like the manga does that for Yu-Gi-Oh! And so sadly, I'm giving this point to Pokemon. However, round 2 may well be very different because we're going to move from the least popular type of medium to the most popular, the TV show. And that's likely the one you're most familiar with. The Pokemon TV show follows the character of Ash as he travels through multiple regions, catching many Pokemon, winning all of his gym badges. I say character because, truth be told, every few seasons he seems to lose his memories onto how to actually battle properly, as well as for some very uncompelling reasons, deciding to leave all of his Pokemon and characters that we as the viewers have grown to love behind, very rarely calling upon them. Yu-Gi-Oh on the other hand does things a little bit differently. Instead of just swapping out some of the cast, it swaps out the entire cast every few series. You've got the original series, which is fantastic, GX, which I made a joke about in a previous video and still haven't heard the end of. You guys, you really like GX. Then there's 5D, Zexal, and Arc 5. These series follow a variety of different protagonists all in the same Yu-Gi-Oh universe but telling different stories. And while you might think swapping out the protagonists might be a bad thing, I actually think it's the best thing that Yu-Gi-Oh did right that Pokemon should have done. See, Pokemon are keeping Ash and Pikachu as the face of the franchise, and that's great and everything, but by doing that it means that viewers like myself cannot possibly follow the show for 20 years. You just can't follow that many episodes, and it wouldn't matter if I did because the character of Ash gets erased and changed so often that you kind of lose hope for him a bit. Like, why is Is he using type disadvantages in battle, or why isn't he just calling upon old friends? Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other hand allows you as a recurring viewer to drop out at any point when each individual arc of storytelling ends. Or as a new viewer, you can choose at what point you want to jump in. Younger viewers might watch the new stuff and go, oh wow, there's old stuff I can watch. And older viewers who have left the show for a while can come in at any new point and they don't have to feel like they've missed loads of years of history. Not only that, as I say, the story of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a more refined version of the story in the manga, and the manga had a good story. Plus the card game, despite all the rule bending, is so much easier to understand. I'm giving this point to Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, another thing that massively swings in his favor is that you can watch all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Online right now in HD. Yes, of course, this is the part where I mention my fantastic sponsors for this episode, Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll is the home to all things anime. You've got your Naruto, Bleach, Ace Attorney, and of course, Yu-Gi-Oh! As well as tons of other great shows. It's all available on iOS, Android, Roku, Xbox One, Wii U, all in 1080 HD. And if you're following a show week by week in Japan, Crunchyroll usually has episodes up within about an hour of them airing via simulcast with subtitles. As well as this, there's HD scans for a ton of different bits of manga, discussions, forums where you can talk about any anime, including Pokemon. And if you're someone like me looking to get into anime, it's a great place to start. And the great thing is, with the premium experience, you can get it all totally ad-free and all in high definition. And exclusively with me, with our vanity URL, crunchyroll.com/birdkeeper, you get a 30-day free trial. I myself have been using this time to research some of this video and also watch the Ace Attorney anime. Typically, one of the biggest issues I have when I want to try out a new anime is finding it all ad-free and finding it in HD. And again, using our vanity URL, crunchyroll.com/birdkeeper, that has been designed exclusively and specifically for us. So we get 30 days to go and watch it all. So go experience some new anime, maybe go watch Yu-Gi-Oh! After this video. Maybe you have a recommendation for an anime newbie like myself to watch, leave me that in the comments. They're amazing sponsors, I can't recommend them enough, and I'm so glad they were part of this episode. So, we're not done with this face-off yet because we have 2 areas to cover and it's currently a tied score. So let's take a look at the video games. It's actually really hard to compare the video games because they are so immensely different. Pokemon started as a video game and it started off well. I mean, it became such a massive sensation that all of these other franchises spawned from it. Yu-Gi-Oh! However, did not start as a video game. In fact, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been struggling to find its footing as a video game since the beginning. The plot normally follows the plot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TV show, which again, the TV show does better. Pokemon, on the other hand, has its own plot, which may sometimes not be the greatest. It may be repetitive, it's the same mechanics that just get refined over generation after generation. But you don't have to stray far to find side games that are filled with variety if that's what you're after. Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other hand, still can't get a hold of its main series very well. Don't get me wrong, there are a few highlights in there, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still struggling. It's made even harder by the fact that Pokemon's cast of character only gets renewed every 3 to 4 years, whereas a new set of cards of Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets released every 3 to 4 months. This means that developers have to program in so many cards only to be out of date by the time the next expansion rolls round. Without a doubt, Pokemon is gonna win this one, meaning the score is 2-1 to Pokemon. But now we have the most controversial one, which is the card game. They both have a fantastic card game. Pokemon is super collectible. It was a fad in the 90s that drained the money out of all of your parents' purses. And should you find your way to playing it at a competitive level, you'll probably find yourself asking your parents for even more money then. A quaint game that's super easy to pick up and go. It has prizes. It features you evolving your Pokemon. It's fun, it's colorful, it's child-friendly. Anyone can get into it. In fact, I'm planning a video with my mum where I'm going to try and teach her very soon. Culturally, Pokemon cards had such a massive impact in the 90s. However though, I think I'm going to be giving this point to Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Has withstood the test of time. While it might have not been such a massive fad in the 90s, although it was still big, still trading me some Blue Eyes White Dragons in the playground back in the day, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of, if not the most competitively played card game today. That of course aside from Magic the Gathering. Also, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is what the whole premise is based around, the card game, which in the show and manga is called Duel Monsters, although I imagine due to copyright reasons they probably avoided that one. The card game Yu-Gi-Oh! Is what everything is based around. This is what all their energies went into. Individual competitively used cards can go up to $150. There's a whole host of ever-changing rules, including ban lists and restricted card lists that you can only use a few of. And unlike Pokemon, which refreshes the look of the card every few sets, you can still use Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards from the original sets, meaning there's always a new way to use an old card. With its holographic cards and some of the characters in the cards being memorable from the show, as well as a more edgy adult look similar to Magic the Gathering, this card game finds the perfect blend between adult and child. And that is why the card game ties the score. Wait, tie game? A tie? Are you kidding me, Birdkeepertoby? Truthfully, it's hard to compare these two franchises, where one has flaws, the other's merits cover it perfectly. These two shows work so well together, which is why they're so highly contested. That said, maybe you disagree with one of my points, and so you're gonna let me know politely in the comments exactly what you think. I didn't actually need to tell you that, I'm sure you would anyway. And of course, let me know if you'd be interested in hearing more of my evil opinions pitching Pokemon against Digimon, Dragon Ball, and hey, maybe even Beyblade. Thanks again to our fantastic sponsors, Crunchyroll. Be sure to use that vanity URL, crunchyroll.com/birdkeeper. Get the 30-day ad-free HD experience that is exclusive to us. Maybe check out some Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you're interested in more Pokemon content, including videos covering the upcoming Pokemon Sun and Moon, hit subscribe and stick around. You tell 'em, Ash!
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeepertoby. That makes you a Pokemon Master!